I would say what makes it kind of unique is, every single sports fan is watching. Um, I think at this time of the year, there's just a level of excitement. I remember being in school, being in high school, and just like we had just got our iPads and stuff, and guys like kids in school would try to watch the March Madness games during school and everything like that. So there's just a level of excitement that when you're playing, you just know everybody in the country is watching you. I honestly would say, just the whole that 2018 season was really, really special for us. We had a bunch of guys that later went on to be NBA players, and I'm playing alongside them now. But just that whole run was very special. It was weekend after weekend. The way we did it at Villanova and the travel and stuff like that. It was the you lock in for a 4 day period, and then after that game on Sunday or Saturday, depending on what you draw, um, you celebrate that, and then it's like right back to Tuesday. You're out again that same day. So I think just the whole process of going through the tournament and just seeing teams get eliminated, and you're just slowly checking boxes of going through each team, and I think just the whole process of everything was the most enjoyable part. Yeah, I think obviously I think Houston's up there. I think Purdue's up there, but just looking at what UConn has done, and you look at the conference, just what they did in the conference. I think obviously a little bit being biased of playing in the Big East. Every game's a battle. You see what Marquette did this year and where they were ranked, and the ups and downs of all different teams. But even if you look at the lower half of the Big East teams, it was a battle every single night in conference games. So for UConn to go out there every single game and handle business, it's really impressive. And I think coming off of the championship, and Coach Hurley has them locked in and dialed in. I think they're in my opinion, I think they're the favorite. I honestly, I think the Big 12. But I think the underrated um, conference, if you will, is because I have UConn as like the favorite is the Big East. I think Creighton drew a 3 or 4 seed, um, and they're a really, really good team.
Yeah, they're the
Um,
3 seed.
yeah, so they're a really good team. They're big, they have shooters, and I think like when you look at all the mid majors and Cinderella teams and everything, like there's always one or two that are gonna get far. It's just that's how the tournament is. It's what makes it special. But when you look at just how these conferences have battled against each other all season long, then you match up against other conferences, and then now it's like it's a test to for me, I want to vouch for the Big East. Like it's a test for how hard nosed the Big East plays. And I think I would say just because of how many teams are made it from the Big 12, then that would be my pick. But
Mhm.
there's a couple teams from different conferences that are definitely sleepers. I when you look at you can do this every single year. I do really think that is even when I was there. You look at how many teams made, like you said, the SEC is up there. Um, but you have to give these teams credit for doing what they did during conference. I think someone's going to be unhappy at all times, whether it's the conference that you're in or you were formerly in. It doesn't matter. I think every single year you're going to have a conference that's upset that they think you know our conference is the best conference in basketball. And I think that's what makes the tournament, like that's what I'm saying. That's what makes the tournament unique. If I were to say, like, if you handle business as your team, if you handle business, then you have no reason to say we deserve more teams in our conference. But at the same time, is when you're beating up each other in the conference, and everybody's around that 500 mark, um, that's where the games earlier in the season, non-conference games, those big games versus, ACC versus Big East or Big 10 versus or Big 12 versus whatever is like that's those holiday tournaments and stuff. That's where everything kind of really matters. And I think that's what gets overlooked at times. It's like, oh, it's cool, it's TV, it's big game on holiday. But when we were in school, like when we played I think we played like Oklahoma and we got our butts whooped in 2016. Like we knew like locked in, like knowing that, that's gonna might come back and bite us in the butt when it comes down to, opponents and conferences and stuff like that. So yeah, I know I just went like rambling on the different conferences, but I think if you're locked in on your team, you handle business early on in the year, the conference plays kind of weighs itself out. Bro, the kid from Kentucky, Reed Shepard, he can hoop. Started off a little bit like kind of like his like trajectory is like kind of started unknown, skyrocketed, and now he's one of the household names in college basketball, and he can take it off the dribble, he can shoot, he has a level of like dog in him that I think it's fun to watch, and I think those type of players during this time really excel. You have to have a level of confidence to you that it's almost like a little bit of crazy confidence to you. And that's where all these guys like for myself, make or miss a shot, the next one's going up, and I believe I'm making it. So I think he has that, and it's going to be fun to watch because I've been watching him on and off throughout the year, and I think he's going to be really good in tournament. I think when you look at the teams like the top, yeah, obviously you look at the top teams like UConn, like a Purdue. They've had, they've always been at the top, but they've had their ups and downs, and their downs aren't necessarily like really low. So I would say UConn, Houston, and Purdue. Obviously, I think they're playing the best basketball for themselves, but I think flying under the radar is like a team like Iowa State.
Mhm.
Um, Really kind of just getting after it and clicking at the right time.
Convincing
It's
win
not
in the Big 12 championship too.
exactly. So like it's all about when I was looking at it and we were looking at it as a team like in the tournament, the games, like I said, were very important in the beginning of the season. But when you're playing a team that's going into the tournament and having convincing wins towards the end, and they're playing with a confidence that's um, all time high going into it, it's really hard to beat teams like that. Oh, I know Kansas. I know Kansas has been dealing with injuries and everything like that. Um, but when you look at Kansas Gonzaga, um, yes, Purdue's big. Yes, they're good, but Gonzaga's always there. I don't care what type of knock you have on their conference. I don't care what you say. They're always there. They're always good. They're always well coached. So and Kansas, like I said, they're always there too. So I personally think it might be Purdue that goes down first. Just because of that 4-5, that following weekend, I think Purdue handles the first, the 16 pretty easily. But Kansas and takeaway team, you look at takeaway team, but you look at overall, um, like school, like history. The coach is there. They're going to have them ready to go. They're going to be locked in. The scouting report's going to be probably, in depth as hell. So I think that will be a real battle for them. Oregon, Oregon is, even though
Mhm.
they're 11 seed, um, I always look at teams that have a pedigree to them.
Mhm.
I actually really like. So it's funny because we're just talking about the Kansas and Gonzaga. TCU
Yeah.
is they're a team that um, is scary. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Is scary is them and my. It's funny when you look at it. I'm not the biggest Duke fan. So Vermont is my like let's go first round and knock Duke out. I would have to go with UConn. I can't go against UConn. I think Iowa State. Honestly, I hate being that guy that goes 1-2. But just in that region, looking at them, I think, um, I don't see. I maybe a team like BYU can beat Iowa State. But I would just say I think it's going to be Iowa State and UConn. I think UConn comes out. Listen, I know they were a rival for us, but I got to go with the Big East. I gotta ride with Marquette. We don't have many teams in it this year, so I like Marquette in that. So I'm stuck in between um, Alabama, Michigan State, and Baylor. I think personally, I think Michigan State, I think, can upset North Carolina. Um, I don't know why. It's a gut feeling from watching them a couple times this year of just I know their record doesn't scream it, but um, like I said, there's a pedigree to them. But let's say let's stay with Alabama. Alabama, they always play hard. They always play the right way, and they have a lot of guys that are kind of Showtime, if you will.
Mhm.
They're in the tournament. Those guys really shine. I think I'm gonna stick with Creighton. I mean, not Creighton. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Kansas.
Mhm.
I think Kansas. They're gonna be tested early. With I think they're gonna play. Gonzaga. I think they come out of that with Gonzaga, and then they meet Purdue. Um, I think they beat Purdue, and then I think they'll play either Creighton or Tennessee, and I think they beat that and come out. I know they're dealing with injuries, but I think anything can happen.
Mhm.
Um, anything can happen, but I just think they squeak out of there.
We got two four seeds coming out and then two Big East teams. So I'd love to also just run through Final Four picks. If this were the theoretical matchup, you would have UConn playing Alabama on one side of the bracket. And who would you like in that matchup?
UConn.
All right, cool, cool. And then the last matchup on the other side would be Marquette versus Kansas.
Whoo. Um. Oh, I man, is this the Big East tournament or what? I feel like I'm so biased. I promise you, I'm not. I would say let's go Marquette, and I think UConn. I honestly, I just think UConn just runs it this year, and I hate to be that guy of like, but being on a team that is so prepared, that have seen it, their coach has seen it, um, that it's a different level. It's really a different level. But I think as teams get farther and further along, kind of what you said earlier, the lights get brighter. But not just that, there's a level of being locked in, a level of focus that you have to block everything else out. And it's like the next game. And I think Coach Hurley has done that with these guys last year. And I think they've done it all this year. The biggest games, if you watch the biggest games all this season, they've put it on teams. And it's just hard to go against them.
Donte, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and go over the bracket with us again. And yeah, you have good luck on the rest of the season. New York has got your backs. We're very excited for what you guys have been cooking up this year. It's been
I
exciting to watch.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun this year, and hopefully, we can get many more wins for the city.